Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Jonathan Yakshaw with TechConnect. I will be your host for the Musculoskeletal Disorder Prevention Safety Innovation Challenge, sponsored by the National Safety Council. So, on the right-hand side of your screen, you will see our speakers today, me at the bottom there. We are joined today from the National Safety Council by Riley Schoenborn, Program Manager, and Ram Maikala, SME and Program Technical Consultant. On the left-hand side there, you will see our agenda for today. We're going to talk about the MSD Prevention Challenge. We're going to go through the timeline. We're going to talk about how you're going to go about responding, all that sort of good information. Then we're going to hear from the National Safety Council representatives themselves talking about the challenge. That second bullet point from the bottom there, Q&A. At any point during today's session, if you have a question about the MSD challenge, please use the Q&A chat box, submit your question. During the second half of today's presentation, we will go through as many of those questions as we can. And if you have a question outside of the challenge, we'll have some information for you as well during today's session. So with that in mind, let's get into it. So the MSD challenge, what is it? What is it for? Through this challenge, the National Safety Council is hoping to identify technologies to reduce the frequency and/or severity of musculoskeletal disorders in the workplace. And it could be any kind of MSD, any part of the body, any kind of impact from that, from awkward postures to forceful motion, that sort of thing. That's what we're looking for here. On your screen, you will see some possible approaches. This list that is on here is intentionally not exhaustive. So if you don't see your technology exactly on here, but your technology can still reduce the frequency or severity of MSDs, we would still like to hear from you. But some of the possible approaches include exoskeletons, wearable sensors, AI and ML platforms for training, augmented reality systems. Robotics would also be on that list as well. So if you got a technology that could help reduce MSDs, we would like to hear from you. At the bottom of your screen, you will see your very best friend for this challenge. That is the URL for the MSD challenge. It's workplacemsd.techconnect.org. That is where you're going to submit your response. That is where you're going to find information about the challenge. And that is where the recording of this webinar will be placed following today's session. Timeline of events. So if you're interested in the MSD challenge, you're going to want to know some important dates and keep them in mind. First off, there's an office hour session on May 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern. That office hour session really is meant to be just a very informal Q&A session with me. Sign up, sign in for the session, ask your question, and I'll answer it right there while we're talking about things. Perhaps the most important date that you need to keep in mind in the immediate future is that submission deadline, June 5th by 8 p.m. Eastern time. That is the submission deadline. So you're going to want to be working on your application. You're going to want to learn about what the application is, and we'll talk about how to apply in just a little bit. But you want to get it in before that submission deadline. If you're working on your response and you realize it is 8:30 on June 5th, you're unfortunately going to be out of luck. The portal will be closed by that point. So make sure that you get your application in. Semifinalists will be notified in late June that they have been invited to attend that final event, September 15th through the 17th in Denver, Colorado, the National Safety Council's Safety Congress and Expo. We'll have some more information about that Congress and Expo in just a little bit as well. And I'm starting to see some questions come in, so thank you very much for that. Keep them coming. We want to know what you guys are wondering about. So, some frequently asked questions here. Are international responses welcome for this challenge? Very simply, yes. Yes, they are welcome. So if you are outside the United States and you are interested in participating in this MSD Prevention Challenge, we would love to hear from you. What is the minimum TRL to respond? What is the minimum technological readiness? Your proposed technology should be ready for pilot scale testing in September. So you need to be under developing you should be already developing your technology and be ready for pilot scale testing in just a few months. Additionally, your proposed technology should have some kind of supporting data for it as well. That data could come from field use. You've sold your technology to a client and they're able to provide some data on its usage. It could come from external third-party testing. Regardless of where the data is coming from, your proposed technology should have some underpinning data for it as well. The last FAQ that we'll talk about is, can you submit more than once? The short answer is yes, you can submit more than once. If you are a provider and you have multiple different technologies for preventing MSDs based on what part of the body they're impacting, based on what kind of MSD they are suitable for, based on what kind of occupation it's suited for, what have you. If you have more than one technology that would be suitable for this, you might want to think about submitting more than once. The reason being, in the response form, you have a limited space to talk about your technology. If you're talking about multiple different technologies in a single response, you're not going to have a whole lot of time and space to adequately describe that technology in a convincing and compelling way. So if you have technologies A, B, and C, consider submitting separate, unique responses for A, B, and C so that representatives from the National Safety Council can say, okay, this is really interesting, this is really interesting, this is really interesting, and judge them individually rather than you being able to provide just a small amount of information about each one in a not particularly compelling sort of way. Now, one of the most common questions that I get in this line of work is, how do I make my response stand out? And while I can't tell you include this, exclude that in your response, what I can tell you is some of the guidance that is up on the screen right there. You are the best cheerleader for your company, for your technology, and what you want to do with both. So when it comes to your response, be engaging, be informative, tell the evaluators a compelling story about what you do, why you do it, and why it's impactful. That is what you need to do. As paradoxical as it may sound, the goal of your response is not to get a contract with somebody. The goal of your response is to convince the National Safety Council reviewers that they need to hear more about what you do and why you do it. That is what you're trying to do. You're trying to hook the evaluators into wanting to learn more about you and your technology. Be responsive. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is the questions that are in the application form are designed to request the kinds of information that the National Safety Council is looking for. So when you are building out your response, answer the questions, because then you are telling the story and including information that they are looking for. Don't be repetitive. If you find yourself in your response repeating the same facts and perhaps in the same way, you're not using the space particularly effectively. You are not including that new, engaging, and informative information in your response. You're just repeating stuff. You're not giving them anything new to consider. So if you can, don't be repetitive. And the last one is a kind of an important one. Keep your response non-confidential in nature. That includes anything in the online form. That includes any attachments that you include with your response. The very first thing that I will do once this project closes is I will look at the submissions to see if anybody has inadvertently included confidential information in their response. It happens pretty regularly. If you do, then we've got to track you down and try to get a clean version of that. If we can't get a hold of you, you may inadvertently exclude yourself from consideration in the program. So when you are getting ready to finally hit submit, make sure that everything is non-confidential in nature. It is to your benefit. Again, the URL right there on the screen. And another reminder, June 5th by 8 p.m. Eastern, that is the application deadline. Make sure you're working on your technology, on your application, and make sure you get it in by that time. Again, I see questions coming in. Thank you very much for that. We will be getting to them in just a little bit. It is now time to turn to people way more knowledgeable about MSDs than me. That is going to be the representatives from the National Safety Council. Riley, Ron, why don't you guys go ahead and come on camera and talk about MSDs with us, please.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan.
Take it away.
All right. So, hi, everyone. My name is Riley Schonborn, and I am the Program Manager for the MSD Solutions Lab, and I also lead innovation work with the Work to Zero team. So today we're going to be going over the Safety Innovation Challenge that will take place this September at NSC Safety Congress and Expo event. But first, I do want to give a quick little overview of the MSD Solutions Lab and some details about MSDs. So we can move it to the next slide, please. So for those who are not familiar with musculoskeletal disorders or MSDs, they aren't just one of the biggest safety challenges facing today's workers, but they're also one of the biggest challenges facing today's employers. MSDs are injuries or disorders of the muscles, nerves, tendons, joints, cartilage, and spinal discs caused by sudden or sustained force, repetitive motion, awkward postures, or vibration. Work-related MSDs are conditions in which work environment and performance of work contribute significantly to the condition, and or conditions are made worse or persist longer due to work-related factors. Next slide, please. Our mission at the lab is simple. It's to eliminate MSDs from workplaces worldwide, so workers can spend more time doing the things they love with the people they love. We're already making tremendous progress by engaging key stakeholders, conducting research, identifying new technology, and innovating solutions and scaling the results so all workplaces can benefit. Next slide, please. So here is today's agenda. I will be discussing what the Safety Innovation Challenge is and what the specific risks are and what we're solving for. Then you're going to be hearing from Ram, who is our technical consultant with the lab, and he will be discussing the scope of technologies. And then lastly, I'll close it out with the schedule and logistics of the challenge. So moving along to what is the Safety Innovation Challenge and why do we have it? So the Safety Innovation Challenge aims to raise awareness about a particular MSD risk. So this year's topic is cutting edge technology for the leading MSD risk. This includes repetitive motion, overexertion, and awkward postures. So with that, I'm going to now hand it on over to Ram, and he's going to be discussing the scope of technologies. So we can move to the next slide, please.
Hello, everyone. Just to, thanks, Jonathan and Riley, for this introductions here. So, I mean, as you know, MSDs are very pervasive, so we need to take care of those, injuries. So, some of the things we are looking at in terms of the technologies are definitely the exoskeletons. You have the wearables. You have cobots and robots. And also, AI-driven technologies, such as computer vision, and also you have extended, augmented, and virtual reality systems. So and also, of course, the latest and the brightest is digital twins. So we are looking all kinds of technologies that address musculoskeletal disorder risk factors. Again, we're looking at force, repetitions, and awkward postures, and overexertions as well. So again, the technologies, it can be innovative technologies which are looking at addressing all aspects of injuries. You can say, hey, why is extended augmented realities are involved? Because you can use that for training purposes, education purposes. So we are looking at all aspects in addressing the musculoskeletal disorders. So that's from my side, Jonathan and Riley.
Thanks, Ram. So again, Jonathan already mentioned this, but I just wanted to reiterate that NSC Safety Congress and Expo will be held in Denver, Colorado, and it's going to be September 15th through the 17th, and we can always drop a link to the Congress website if you do want to learn more about the event, which I can do at the end of this. And now we can move into a little bit about the schedules. We can go to the next slide, please. All right, so for the schedule, so on day one, you will have your own booth at the Safety Technology Pavilion, and this is an area within MSD Central. So the Safety Technology Pavilion is an immersive, interactive, and educational experience. We want all finalists to interact with attendees and demo your technology to showcase how your technology mitigates MSD risk. We ask that you do create some sort of activity to show how your technology mitigates the MSD risk that I mentioned in the beginning. So some examples that in the past that vendors have done, they've created cup game, box stacking, basketball arcade game, whack-a-mole. You don't have to do anything extreme, and we can talk more about that later. So if you're having a hard time coming up with an activity, again, we can always brainstorm with you as well. And then below is just a photo from last year's Congress, again, using a whack-a-mole game. Next, on day two, it is very similar to day one, so we can move to the next slide here. You will be at your booths interacting with attendees and demoing your technology. Something that's different about day two is we will, from 2:30 to 4, we'll be hosting a VIP reception in the Safety Technology Pavilion where you will be interacting with advisory council members, the division group from NSC, including government and public sector, young professionals, women in labor. This is a closed-off event. During the VIP reception, our VIPs will be voting on the top 3 finalists who will be presenting at the closing keynote and will be awarded the Safety Innovation Challenge winner. So since only 3 of the companies will be presenting, we will be asking for 10-second videos from all 10 companies to showcase at our closing keynote because we want to recognize all 10 companies. And again, you'll get that information later in these upcoming months. And then next slide, please. On day 3, the top 3 finalists chosen from the VIP reception will present in front of the closing keynote attendees. We will have our closing keynote speaker present for the first hour. And then for the rest of the time, we will have our Safety Innovation Challenge presentations. So for the first 3 finalists, you will have 3 minutes to present your technology and how it mitigates MSD risk. And then you will have 7 minutes of questions from our panel of judges. And then our panel of judges will be sitting on stage with you. And this panel does include industry experts and our closing keynote speaker. After all 3 presentations, we'll launch a poll to the audience and they will vote for the one Safety Innovation Challenge winner. So the winner will be receiving a free year-long subscription to the Tech Hub Marketplace, and they will be eligible for the MSD Pilot Grant Program. And then after that closing keynote, the expo will be open from 9:30 to 1, and this will be a great time for you to go back to your booths and just have more conversations with attendees. I didn't mention this before, but on day 1 and 2, the expo will be open from 9:30 to 4 p.m., and we do expect you guys to be at your booths during that time. Next slide, please. So I know this was a lot of information, but I believe this will be sent out. So Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but and if you are chosen as one of the final 10 companies, I will be sending you an exhibitor packet with all of this information and much more. So if you want more information just regarding the lab and learn a little bit more about MSDs, you can scan the QR code here and it will take you directly to the lab's website. But I want to say thank you, and I will hand it back on over to Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Riley. Thank you, Ram. While the slides won't be sent out, this webinar is being recorded. It will be added to the challenge page after this, so you'll be able to take a look at all of the information that is included right there. With that in mind, we are going to transition now to questions from all of our attendees. A number of questions have already come in. We will be getting to them shortly. If you have questions, now is an excellent time to post your questions. If there are process questions, how you go about submitting your application, I am here. If you've got technical questions, we've got experts from the National Safety Council right here as well. So avail yourself of this opportunity and get some information while you're here. So we've got a number of questions asking about the URL for the recording. My colleague Katie has already put that into the chat. You can take a look at that information there. All right, we've got a question about technical maturity. Ram, Riley, please feel free to chime in here. Currently have a patent and several prototypes and are seeking funding for completing a 3rd design, iteration, and testing. Guessing we are too early for this program. Possibly, but If they might be ready for pilot scale testing in September, they might be. I guess we would probably say to err on the side of being ready and respond anyway. You're still on mute, Ron.
Sorry, sorry, Jonathan. Just to add, I mean, the whatever I think one good thing Jonathan said is about the TRL. Whatever the technology which is ready, one of the things is, so if it becomes if you become one of the finalists and then you end up becoming one of the winners, one of the things mandatory in a way is that you will be participating in the pilot program. So some of the organizations who wants to test your product, they are eligible for a 20,000 grant. So I mean, when you're when the organization is ready to use your technology, that means your technology is ready to be used. So it's not like you're still testing it, prototyping it. That is not kind of acceptable in terms of the part of the program. So, Jonathan, am I correct?
Okay, sounds good. Riley, did you want to add anything to Ron's comments? Okay. All right. Our next question. My platform uses AR, AI, LMS, spatial intelligence, and simulation working together. Would I submit 2 or 3 applications for each component or the holistic solution? That's a great question, and it depends on what the focus of your proposed solution is. If the individual technologies themselves, the spatial intelligence, the AR, if they are standalone technologies that can address MSD frequency or severity, then you might want to explore submitting individual responses for each of them. However, if you are proposing the holistic solution, all of those things together, then you would submit one response that talks about the performance of the combined whole rather than digging into the details of the underpinning technologies. And I hope that makes sense. All right, folks, that actually is all of the questions that we have right now. This is an excellent opportunity for you to ask questions to representatives from the NSC right here, right now. I strongly advise that if you are interested in participating in this challenge, and I hope that since you're taking some time out of your day to do that, that you would avail yourself of this opportunity because you quite literally have the experts right here. When it comes to your application, again, think about it like a dinner party introduction. You are introducing your company, your technology to the National Safety Council. You want them to effectively say, that's really cool, tell me more. That is what being invited to the Congress in September effectively is. It's them wanting to know more about what you do and why you do it. Approach your application, your response with that in mind. Everything that you put in should be in support of telling the best possible story about your technology and about your company. If you look at the challenge page, you will see the specific metrics on which your proposal will be evaluated. Look at those, think about what you are including, and think about whether or not the information you're including supports at least one of those particular metrics. If it doesn't support one of those metrics, toss it out, replace it with something else. Again, you have to tell the best possible story about what you're doing and why you're doing it so that the NSC, when they get done reading it, effectively can't help themselves but invite you to Congress. That is what your goal is. Okay. Riley, got another question for you. If I sponsored in a capstone, okay. The question is basically if they use a research paper that they have on their technology, does that serve as the underlying data supporting their technology, or would you want customer responses as well? Is that research paper sufficient if it's research that they have done?
Very good question, Jonathan. I mean, yeah, say for example, if your technology has been validated or some studies have done in terms of reliability with respect to your technology through a research paper or a use case, all are welcome, because that gives a strong, a case in terms of looking when we look at your applications. So yes, research paper data is relevant. At the same time, use cases are relevant as well. But end of the day, we still the product has to be to be ready to be used by a organization, in addressing their particular risk for MSDs.
Okay.
Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. All right. We haven't had a new question come in for a little bit here. I'm going to give it just a moment to see if we have any additional questions. For those that are in attendance, my very next slide is going to have some information. If you realize that you've got a question about the MSD challenge and it occurs to you after today's webinar, then you're going to be able to get out and reach out for some additional information. I'll have that in just a second here. All right. Asking about a fee to participate. There is no fee to respond to the MSD challenge. If you are selected as a semi-finalist, and Riley, please correct me if I say this wrong here. If you are selected as a finalist, there is a fee for booth exhibition at Congress. Is that correct?
Yes. So it'll be $1,500, and that includes 2 registrations to the event. And then that also includes your booth. So it's a 10 by 10 space booth within the pavilion. And that again includes the space itself, the background, your cabinets, your tables, chairs, carpeting, Wi-Fi. We haven't chosen yet, but it's usually a 50 or 55-inch monitor as well. So it includes, again, the 2 free registrations and then all of the booth equipment.
Great. Thank you, Riley. All right, folks. As I promised, if you are interested in this challenge, and again, I hope that you are, and you realize that you have questions outside of the webinar and outside of the upcoming office hour session. On your screen, you will see an email, challenges@techconnect.org. That is going to be your way to reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in this program. I've got some questions. Here's what I'm wondering. Can I get some additional information? Reach out that way, and we will try to get you the information that you're looking for. A number of you have asked for the URL for the challenge page. It is right there on your screen, workplace.msd.techconnect.org. And my colleague Katie has also put the email address into the chat as well. Thank you very much for that, Katie. Once again, the submission deadline, June 5th by 8 p.m. Eastern. And if I recall correctly, I think that is a Thursday. Make sure that you are working on your application. Don't wait till the last minute. I know people like deadlines. I know people will wait until the last minute to get their application in, but I strongly recommend that you take a look at the application, see what kinds of information you're going to be asked to provide so that you can start working on crafting that amazing narrative about who you are, what you do, and why you do it, and why the NSC should pay attention to you. We don't have any new questions coming in. Thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon. I think we'll go ahead and wrap up a little bit early. Ron, Riley, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to answer questions and give an overview to our attendees. To our attendees, thank you for signing in today. I hope you found this session to be informative, and we look forward to as many of you responding as possible. To my colleague Katie, thank you for taking the time to operate things in the background for us. And everybody else, have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.